Today I'm back with another Artist Spotlight video, and today we're taking a look at the art of Bill Willingham, one of my favorite artists from the early era of Dungeons & Dragons. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer, and this is our channel, Old School Rules, where we celebrate the community of old school gamers and grognards who like classic RPGs, miniatures, magazines, and everything that goes with it. On the Artist Spotlight series, we take a look at the art of a particular artist who made an impact on the images we all know and love from the early days of Dungeons & Dragons. Today we're highlighting Bill Willingham, one of my favorite artists. Hope you enjoy today's video. I'm having a lot of fun doing these Artist Spotlight videos, and I hope you all are having a lot of fun watching them as well. If you're familiar with Bill's art from that era, then I think you're going to enjoy the nostalgic look at his images. And if you don't know Bill's work, you're in for a real treat today. Bill's one of my favorite artists. His work is one of those I tried to copy, sometimes literally, when I was trying to draw something for myself. And he was only there for a short period of time. He joined in the 80s, straight out of the Army, got back from the Army, and went to Lake Geneva. And there's a great interview I've seen of him on a YouTube channel. I think I've seen him talk about his early days a couple of different times, telling the stories about going there and getting to meet the folks in the art department and what his career was like. We're lucky that Bill's still with us. You know, he had a short tenure at TSR. He always was really interested in illustration and comics, and he's done a lot of that in his career since he left TSR. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give you my top 5 illustrations and cover art. Okay, so where does Bill's art show up? He was there when they did the second box set. So we've got what we call the Moldvay edition of the basic rules, as well as the Cook Expert box set and rulebook, and he does illustrations in those. He has some illustrations in Fiend Folio that are really fantastic and maybe a little less well known. And he did some module work, both a couple of covers as well as interior illustrations. So let's look here at the rule books first of all. Here are a couple pieces of his art. He's got these the bumblebees, or these are giant bees, and then he's got this little pixie and the rust monster, which is a great one. And he's also got a picture of a giant spider as well as a troglodyte. I believe that's what that is. Here's the interior for the Expert box set, and you can see these hands reaching out towards the party. I just think that's a great sense of foreshortening in that illustration. Here's some more of his art that shows up in the Expert book. He's got this knight and this guy in the front with the mace, a basilisk up here on top, the guy blowing a horn, as well as a Pegasus and a pterodactyl in flight. And here's some more of his illustrations. The vampire, I think, is one of his best, almost made my sort of top 5 list. I just think that's a fantastic illustration of the vampire. Next, he did some work in the Fiend Folio. And those of you who, for some reason, maybe don't know, the Fiend Folio is the only hardcover edition from hardcover book from the first edition of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons that was produced by our friends across the way in the United Kingdom. A lot of this came from the White Dwarf magazine, where they had a Fiend feature in their in White Dwarf, where people sent in new monsters and they collated and picked some. And so if you've read a lot of White Dwarf, then obviously these were fairly familiar, but a lot of us had not. And so this book, I got this book when I was younger. I thought it was a really cool book. A couple here, and Bill says in one of his interviews, you know, that his shadow is perhaps in some respects like his most famous or enduring work of art, because that image inspired them when they did the Saturday morning cartoon. And you'll remember Venger, who's the perpetual bad guy in that cartoon series, has this guy, sort of his right-hand man or his main minion is this shadow. It's inspired by Bill's drawing here. And then he's got this wall that's reaching out and grabbing this guy. He's several great illustrations of the drow. Here's one from the drow, which are listed as a monster in this book. That's where they appear. Well, the first time they appear in a hardcover book, right? They actually appear in modules earlier than that. And then in the back of that, if you've never really taken the time to carefully look through the pages in the back of the Fiend Folio, after you get to letter Z, there's several pages of random encounter tables and other things back there, and lots of great illustration from the TSR artists. So here are a couple of his. Here's another one I like. Again, thought about maybe making this one of my top 5. This Valkyrie standing over this dead guy, I think, is just a fantastic illustration by Bill. And then this one was a random table. I whited out the table in the middle, and you can just see these creatures around the outside that he drew. I'm pretty sure this one's doesn't have his name on it, but I'm pretty sure from the style that this was Bill's art. Okay, as I mentioned, he also has art in a number of modules. So let's talk about his interior illustrations. I guess let's start with his cover illustrations. Right, this is a rear cover illustration from X1, and you've got a number of interior drawings here. I really like the one, again, he's got these little furry guys from that Isle of Dread module, and I really like the expressions and all the different faces of these little monsters, monkey monsters that are attacking him. You know, the one at the bottom is getting squished, the other one's getting kicked, one gets hit right in the face. This is just a great illustration. This one's from the interior cover of L1, Isle of Bone Hill. So this is an interior illustration from D1-2. You know, originally those were individual adventures that were produced, D1 and D2. They combined and re-released them as D1-2, and this illustration appears in that module. And he did illustrations for some of the Slavers series. This appears in A3. And then you've got this little, I don't remember if this is a giant sundew, I believe is what they call this creature, which appears in the A1 module. And this one also is from A1. You'll remember those little ant guys, aspists, that are featured prominently in that adventure. And again, this one's not signed in A3, but I feel based on style, I think this is a Bill Willingham illustration as well. And apologies if I've got that wrong. And then this one certainly is signed towards the back there. This is a stroper, right? Like a stone roper. This is just a fantastic one. You got the lady at the bottom who's getting crushed to death. This creature with all its gnashy little teeth, right? Got a hold of this guy at the top. He's getting ready to probably take a bite out of him. Really excellent. And then here's another one of my favorites that almost made. This is also from A3, also almost made my top 5. This is a great illustration, I think. Very, very well done. Very large illustration that he did. Okay, so let's get down into my top 5 illustrations for Bill Willingham. This is an illustration from the S2 module, and I just think it's excellent. You've got this little halfling creature, and then you can sort of see the demon ghost-like form back behind him. Number 4 for me is going to come from the G123 series, and this is, I just always love this one. This guy, he's like sort of clueless, right? Looking at this cute little polar bear cub, and he's got the giant polar bear behind him, and the frost giant who's coming in the door. He's just like, oh look, he's so cute. And this is one of those. If you've seen anywhere, Jeff D's been doing a series of art called sort of 1 Minute Later, and he started by taking a lot of his famous module covers or rear covers and then drawing that same scene 1 minute later or painting. This would be a great one, right? For 1 minute, man, 15 seconds later, this scene's going to look very different. This is a personal favorite of mine here at number 3. This is from B2, The Keep on the Borderlands. I just love his Minotaur. Whenever I read about a Minotaur, right, I think immediately, first of all, of this image. Just fantastic illustration as far as I'm concerned. Number 2, I told you I really like his drawings of the Drow. This is the interior cover from D1-2. And in addition to being a fantastic drawing of the Drow, you've got that, crossbow bolt coming straight at you, and the other Drow in the background. Take a close look down at the bottom left. And I told you that Bill likes comics. If you haven't ever noticed this little Easter egg before, you've got Spider-Man, old Iron Man, Captain America's shield right there. Pretty cool stuff from Bill. And here's my number one illustration. This is the interior cover from the Moldvay Basic Rules. That's the one that has the Errol Otis art on the cover of it. And this is the interior cover drawing. And I just think this is fantastic. Obviously, he's packed a lot into this. You've got a wizard and a fighter, an elf and a dwarf in there fighting a dragon. It's just such a fantastic illustration, and one that I fondly recall because this is something that we obviously played with those rules when I was a kid. Now let's talk about my top 5 covers that he did. So number 5 is a rear cover. It comes from A4 in the Slavers series, and is this vampire. The lady's got the stake, she's coming after him. This guy's got the cross, and so it looks like trouble, frankly, but we'll see. Again, 1 minute later, maybe they're successful. The next one is the rear cover, again from D12, and this is this fantastic art of this mind flayer who's sucking the brains out of this guy very clearly, and you got the collar spray or prismatic spray in the back from the magic user, and I assume his thief coming up, maybe trying to backstab him. It's really fantastic art. Next, this one's pretty famous, I think. It's from S2. It's the rear cover. It has the famous sword that was inspired, I think, by Morlock's Elric series sword. Here, if you remember that adventure, there were like these 3 super powerful magic items, and everybody wanted to keep, in particular, I think Black Razor, but everybody wanted to keep those 3 magic items if they could get them. It's a great cover, great adventure. And then here's his front cover for, remember they did G1, G2, and G3 as separate adventure modules from Gary Gygax, and those were the sort of monochrome covers, and then they put them all together as G1, 2, 3, and this was the cover of the redone combined adventure modules. And I remember wanting this one when I was a kid. I love this front art. It was a little bit more expensive because it was bigger. I was so excited when we got that one back when I was a kid. And then here's my number 1. This is the cover from the Secret of Bone Hill, L1, I believe. And this is a fantastic piece of art, right? This lady, she sort of looks like the Scarlet Witch in her outfit. And man, she has given this other guy the business. The lightning bolt has lit him up so much you can see his skeleton. I always sort of wanted to find this scene, in the module because the cover was so evocative. Bill was such a great artist, and we're so lucky to have gotten to see so much of his art from his time at TSR. Well, so that's it for this one in the Artist Spotlight series, and my focus on the art of Bill Willingham. We're lucky that Bill's still with us and still producing great art today. And if you have a chance to find some of the interviews as he talks about his early days at TSR, I really encourage you to find that. And if I can find some links, I'll throw them in the comments down below on my video. That's it for today's episode of Artist Spotlight. We got plenty more to come, and I hope you're enjoying the series. Feel free to subscribe so you can get notices of all our new content, which we try to put out once or twice a week. And until next time, my friends, keep rolling 20s.